Hello, Peririse and friends. Welcome to week 3 of our Black History Month focus. Over the last few weeks, we have been bringing to you different aspects of Black history. The first week was just an introduction, which explained what Black History Month really means and the fact that it's a month for everyone. Black history isn't specific just to Black people. Whilst it celebrates Black people and their contributions, it's all of our history. So we just wanted to just give a sense of unity and be able to celebrate that all together. On the second week, we discussed great African civilizations, and for me, I found this really interesting because there were so many empires and kingdoms which I'd never heard of before. So I found that very encouraging as I was going through it. This is the third week, and the third week we are calling it Black Presence in the UK. And again, going through this, there were so many great examples of Black presence and Black culture within the UK, but I'm only going to bring 4 of them today and just share some of the things I found particularly interesting. So the first person I wanted to bring to you was a man called John Blank. And he was a Black musician in London in the early 16th century. He probably came to England as one of the African attendants of Catherine of Aragon in 1501. John Blank is one of the earliest recorded Black people in England after the Roman period. And he is known to have existed because there's an image of him on the Westminster Tournament roll, which is a tapestry, a tournament which is held in the College of Arms in London. And the tournament, or the tapestry, was in celebration of the birth of Henry VIII and Catherine of Aragon's child, who was born on New Year's Day. So this is why this was created. And this roll is about 60 feet long, so you can imagine how many beautiful illustrations are on there. And John Blank features on it twice, actually, and we can see the image there in the other screen of John Blank there playing his trumpet. So he played the trumpet on a number of occasions, including Henry VII's funeral. He was paid for his work as well. And I did read somewhere that he actually petitioned to the king for a pay increase because he wanted to be treated in the same manner as the other musicians or the other trumpeters there. He wanted to not be treated as lesser. And it was actually agreed that his payment would be increased, and it had gone from 8 pence. And I think it's 8 pence a day or a week. I can't quite remember, but it was actually increased to 16. So actually his pay was doubled. And I found this really encouraging, because sometimes as a minority, it can be quite difficult and quite uncomfortable to stand up for what you think is right and put across your points and your views respectfully. And sometimes it can be quite uncomfortable conversations. And I felt that was really encouraging for John Blank, who was in the minority, to stand up for what he felt was really important. And this actually brings me back to when I was a kid and just growing up and doing ballet. And in my ballet class, I was the only Black girl in my class. And then my sister, who's a year older than me, she was the only Black girl in her class. And before shows, you have your costumes already set up, but in leading up to it, you have to bring your essentials, so your leotard, your tights, and your ballet shoes. And I'd always remember that my teacher referred to, she'd always say, make sure you've got your nude ballet shoes, because there were Black ballet shoes as well, but she was very specific. It was like, make sure you bring your nude or flesh tone ballet shoes. And I'd always look around and think, this isn't my nude, this isn't my flesh tone. And I would never really say it to anyone because I felt quite uncomfortable about it, because I didn't want to make a scene or stand out. And actually that was something that has probably gone on for so many years, because it was was almost like that was sort of the standard color. And it was only actually until last year, April 2019, when actually the actual dance school Ballet Black did a collaboration with a footwear company and established ballet shoes for all skin tones, particularly black dancers and but dancers with darker skin. So, but it probably took a number of voices for that actually to come about and that to be in existence. So going back to John Blank, this one single person was able to use his voice in a way that represented himself and stood up for what he believed in. So super encouraging, and there's so much more interesting information about John Blank as well, and I could probably sit here all evening talking about it, but I won't. I'll move on to the next one, but he truly is very encouraging. The next thing I wanted to talk about was the Black presence in the RAF. So with the outbreak of the war with Nazi Germany, Britain needed all the manpower that it could get. And around that time, there was the colour ban or the colour bar. But because of the need for all the support during the war, this ban was lifted. So the RAF actually began recruiting for aircrew amongst the Black communities and Black people. But despite the formal discrimination coming to an end, Black people still found it quite hard to enlist. So then between 1939 and 1940, approximately 6,000 Black Caribbean men volunteered for the RAF as either ground staff or aircrew. But once they arrived in Britain, the RAF began to actually take the issue of racism seriously. And a statement was issued in around June 1944, which stated the following. I'll read this. All ranks should clearly understand there is no colour bar in the Royal Air Force. Any instant discrimination on grounds of colour by white officers or airmen, or any attitude of hostility towards persons of non-European descent should be immediately and severely checked. So obviously there was still some form of discrimination, racism, segregation within the RAF force. However, it was good to see that this statement was issued as a sense of trying to unite people. But just looking at this image there as well, it made me smile. It still makes me smile looking at it, because the man at the beginning, at the top picture, just looks so proud and hardworking. It's just so encouraging just to see that 6,000 Black Caribbean men were volunteers for the RAF and added so much value and so much support to this. So again, that really, really, really encouraged me there. So then moving on to Windrush. So on the 22nd of June, 1948, the Empire Windrush arrived at Tilbury Docks in Essex, and this carried almost 500 Caribbean passengers. And the day that Windrush discharged its passengers at Tilbury has become an important landmark in history of modern Britain. Caribbean migrants have been a fundamental and critical part of British society, and in the process have transformed important aspects of British life. A huge number of ex-servicemen were on board, and some of them were even returning to their jobs in the RAF. And at this time, there were probably a lot more jobs available, because it was at a time where there was a huge need for help following on from the war. And just me personally, and speaking with family members about their memories, and actually just online actually, because it's interesting seeing some of the videos of people that were on board the Windrush. It's really encouraging hearing their stories actually, and how they felt and their feelings of coming to London and coming to England, and speaking with my grandma and granddad actually. It's interesting that one of the first things that they bought was a coat and a scarf because the weather conditions were the complete opposite to what it was like back in Jamaica. So I would actually just challenge you, or actually, if you haven't done so already, to read up more about Windrush, because there's so many stories, or even talk to one another actually, because I'm sure we've got some stories amongst our congregation, just to see just how fundamental this was, and how important the day of the 22nd of June 1948 really was to the British Society. And lastly, I really want to take some time to mention Notting Hill Carnival, because Notting Hill Carnival isn't probably like any other festival. It's an annual celebration, and it's a great example actually of Black presence in British life. The first Notting Hill Carnival took place in August 1966, and each year it tends to be over the bank holiday weekend in August. So from that last Sunday, Saturday, Sunday, and the Monday. And today it attracts around 1 million people every single year to Notting Hill, and it highlights Caribbean and other Black cultures. It celebrates the British West Indian community, and encourages cultural unity. In the 60s, the festival sprang up as one way to address the community unrest and improve racial relations. But today, the carnival features a parade with elaborate and beautifully decorated floats. You see people with, like in this picture here, with the most incredible costumes. There's feathers, there's glitter, there's sequins. It's just so beautiful to see. There's still pans, there's just music and a lot of food. And it's just so nice that it isn't just a festival where there's only Black people there. There's so many different communities and so many different races, and it's just such a huge celebration of everyone coming together and just taking time to appreciate Black culture. And this is now something that is quite embedded in British culture now. And if you look at some of the local tour guides, or some of the sites and things to see when you're in London as a tourist, Carnival comes up, Notting Hill Carnival comes up, because it is now part of British culture, British society. So that's really nice to see. And although this year Notting Hill Carnival was cancelled, but due to COVID-19, but it was actually still available to stream over 4 different online channels. So that was really good to see. And it was nice to see some of like the socially distanced celebrations as well, and just Zoom celebrations. So it was really good to see. And in spite of it being officially cancelled this year, people still found the time to celebrate this, because like I say, it's now part of British society. So those are some of the examples of Black presence within the UK. And like I said earlier, there are only a few that I've mentioned today, but there's been so many as I've been doing my research and reading up in magazines, and even in the Premier magazine, actually, there's some really good information there. And I've also got this, you can't see it, but this came in the Guardian a couple of years ago as well, and it's been laminated, and it has some really useful information on there. So I would again challenge you all just to have a conversation about Black history amongst yourselves. Reach out to people in the congregation, reach out to people, family members or friends, and just keep this conversation going, because like I say, it is Black History Month, and it is history celebrating Black people, but it's all of our history. So I would really encourage this conversation to keep going, and not just in this month, but in the coming months and years. So thank you so much for listening. Good night.